Married people, what would you like to say to single people? Marriage should not interfere with a good relationship with yourself. My wife's uncle was the best man at our wedding, as well as for other family members and friends. Before the ceremony, he described to us his theory of love and marriage. He said that many people, if not all, look at marriage as something that brings two people together. But that doesn't make a marriage right, healthy, or stable. My uncle explained that to do not become one, but to become three. First, each of us as a separate person, and then together as a separate creation. Each of these three needs love, care, and attention separately. I think this is promising, useful, and healthy advice. It's normal to sleep under two blankets. No one likes to wake up with a cold ass because a man stole a blanket. My parents have had separate bedrooms for about 12 years. They have completely different sleep schedules, favorite TV shows, and sleep preferences. My mom and I sleep in the dark, and my dad sleeps with a lamp. In addition, my father snores quite loudly. They talk in the morning, in the evening, on weekends, whenever they want. Sometimes they talk for hours, sometimes not. It's the healthiest marriage I've ever seen. The problems that existed before marriage will remain afterwards. Marriage does not and should not change anything in your relationship. I had a friend whose life goal for 14 years was to grow up, get married, and have children. She grew up, but her goals did not change. She got engaged to the first guy she could get to propose. And she got married less than 2 years after meeting him. I visited them a few days after the wedding and jokingly asked how married life was. I'll never forget the embarrassment in her voice when she replied, "It's the same as living together." I thought it would be completely different. A sincere apology goes a long way. Be sure to accept a sincere apology. Resentment is never good for a relationship. Learn to forgive your partner, especially when they make an effort to apologize and try to be better. You don't need to argue or prove yourself right in any way. You are different people, and it's okay to disagree on everything. It would be weird if it wasn't. I've seen many couples fight because they tried to get their partner to change their point of view. Accept that you are different and you will be happy. In addition to love, you also have to like each other. Shared values are much more important than shared interests. My husband loves video games, but I hadn't played many before him. He showed me some games that I liked. I love asking him about what he's playing now. Listening to stories about all sorts of ridiculous things that happen there. And what is interesting or not so interesting about it. Sometimes I also download a game that seems good to me from his stories. I'm a big sports fan, but he's never been interested in sports. So I introduced him to football. I explained why it's a great sport for nerds and why it's so much fun to watch. Later, baseball. Thanks to the pandemic, now we watch games together and often play side by side. When we met, we didn't have any hobbies or interests in common. But we have similar thought processes and we like the same things for similar reasons. So, as soon as we got to know each other's preferences better, we found a common language. Marriage is not about you versus your husband. It is you and your husband against problems. It's okay if your relationship looks the way you want it to. Don't worry about stereotypes or societal standards. If you enjoy separate hobbies, that's great. If you want to play video games together even after 40 years, why not? I believe that as long as you don't harm each other, all relationship scenarios in marriage will be correct. It took me a few years to realize that I don't need to conform to some kind of wife template imposed in childhood. We are both much happier now that we live exactly the way we want to. Marriage is a carload of work. You can do the work, but you have to do it regularly. Some people get tired of doing it every day. Some people never intended to work 7 days a week. Still others force the other partner to do everything. However, this does not always work. Everything works like clockwork only if you wake up and do your share of the work day in and day out, 7 days a week. What do I mean by work? It goes beyond the simple division of labor and responsibilities, although that is important too. It means sharing the emotional burden. It's when both parties have to be sensitive to each other on a daily basis, perform their duties without being told, listen to each other, work together to solve problems, support during acute and chronic illnesses. Over time, romance and passion tend to fade. Sometimes it just comes with old age. I have been married for almost 9 years. I definitely do not have the same sexual energy as at the beginning of the relationship. Neither does my husband. It's not about replacing romance or passion. It's about having a partner, a real reliable companion. Someone you can rely on, who makes life easier, not harder. With whom life is more fun, not more boring, who makes you believe that you will never be left alone with trouble. Many people stumble in this place. They look for this in a partner, but do not do the same in return. Marriage is about giving and taking a lot, and it's too easy to upset that balance. For God's sake, don't let this one go to waste when you're planning your wedding day. It's just one day, and it will be over before you know it. Try to cut costs as much as possible. The money you save can be used to buy a house or buy an airbag when you really need it. Also, the one time you don't go to bed without making up, it's complete bullshit. Go to bed angry. When you both get a good night's sleep, the tension will subside. You will think things over and be able to see things from a different angle. Where there is a happy wife, a happy family is also toxic to a marriage. You have to care about each other's happiness equally. Marriage is a partnership. Divorce is scary, horrible, and painful. Before you get married, realize that the only way out of a marriage, other than death, is through a very painful, public, and traumatic process. If you really don't believe you can make your marriage work for the rest of your life, don't get into it. Unless you want to experience what it's like to be crushed by a train called divorce. Increase your budget for toilet paper when you get married. God knows I was not prepared for how much toilet paper women use, and then we had 2 more daughters. You never marry a girl, you marry her whole family. 99.9% of problems can be solved with one cool trick. Speak with your mouth. Playing the silent game doesn't help anyone. Don't expect people to guess or know what you want or what you're thinking. Don't assume that everything is done with malice. I've seen so many people break up. Whereas one, perhaps slightly unpleasant conversation could have resolved the conflict. Bodies age. When you're married for a long time, you'll watch your own body and your partner's body transform into the bodies of middle-aged and older people. It's not always pretty. Then you're not just having sex with a middle-aged body. You're having sex in a middle-aged body. I don't know what the advice is here, other than to get used to the idea that your husband and you will not always be young, hot, and slim. Kinship and connection should help you cope with this. You have to go through the good, the bad, and the ugly together. Do not marry someone you have only seen one side of. Find out how your partner behaves under stress. You don't want to get married and find out that he kills cats in the backyard when things don't go his way. Get married only out of love. I thought getting married would provide me with health insurance, but it didn't. The monthly cost of being on my husband's insurance was more than our monthly rent at the time. Now I have my own health insurance. Also, remain an individual. Your partner should share your life with you, not be your life. Take time for yourself and the things that make you happy. Children do not establish relationships. If you've had difficulties before, a child will make those difficulties worse. Babies can make even fantastic relationships difficult. Do not have a baby if you are having problems. Don't have a baby to fix your marriage. Don't have a baby to keep your significant other. It doesn't work. You buy a house with a beautiful garden, you promise to take care of that garden for the rest of your life. Several years have passed, you are busy with work and children, often sick, stressed. You recently sprained your ankle, and so on. The thing is, you always have a dozen excuses. Why didn't you go out to fertilize the garden? Transplanting annuals, loosening the soil, watering and weeding the beds, treating for pests, etc. You are just too busy, too tired. You don't have the energy to take care of it. And here's a surprise, your garden is sad to look at. There is no more pleasant aroma coming from it, and it looks neglected. Guess what? During your morning walk, you see some beautiful and fragrant gardens in the neighborhood. Should you sell your house and buy another one with a better garden? Of course, why not? That's not what you deserve. You work hard, you only live once, boom, the cycle of relationship failure has begun. You will leave behind a trail of ruined gardens. Not because the gardens weren't right for you or weren't good enough, but because you didn't bother to invest in them while expecting them to bloom and smell on their own. But that's not how it works. Flowers and fruits require work. Water, soil, nutrients, and last but not least, time, energy, and prioritization from each person. If you don't put all of this into your garden, don't be surprised with the wilted weeds you get in return. Friends, thank you for watching. In the comments below the video, write what advice you would give to single people. Dear friends, thank you for every like, comment, subscription, and call. Thank you for watching to the end. See you in the next video.